everybody, welcome back to PSGL. George Morgan here and Jack Canat. All the lights are currently lit here on track, and it is go, go, go!
Down through the Mercedes teammate.
Denoso with a crafty manoeuvre up the inside. Masterclass from the Chilean.
Crucial championship points on offer here.
Do not countdown Danny Berezne.
Longe has done the job. This is for the win between these two.
Freddie Rasmussen wins the United States Grand Prix.
Alfie Butcher wins for the first time ever. Lucas Blakely takes the championship. It's Barry Foreman.
Jarno Opmeer is your champion.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Season 38. This is PSGL PCF3 with a kickoff here tonight in Australia. That will be your host for tonight, a little different than the regular lineup that you're going to see. That, of course, will be Sappy and Omi next week. But tonight, you have me, myself, Smith Sky, and, as always, you have your standard pairing for F3, tonight at F3, Max. Welcome, Max. It definitely will, but before we zoom in on the track and the drivers that we have here in F3, we're first going to take a little look at the calendar that we have for this season. We will quickly change that view, and as you can see, we start here tonight in Australia, our season opener, 12 races in total this season, season 38. Next week we move on to Texas, followed by a race in Belgium, Canada, and Qatar, all in succession. So 5 races in a row. Then we have a break in the week of November 21st before we move on to Monaco on the 28th. But then we've got quite some bangers. It's first Monaco, then we go to Silverstone, followed by the Dutch Grand Prix at Zandvoort, and then it's the crazy fast track at Saudi before we take our festive break. So quite an action-packed second bit of the calendar. And then after the festive break, we resume in January, where we have the final 3 races around Japan, Las Vegas, and Bahrain. So I must say, Max, quite a good season up ahead. I think the middle part of this season is going to be really, really epic, and I'm especially looking forward to those races. Although I can remember a couple of good races around Albert Park as well. So let's see how that's like.
Arabia, they're all technical and difficult challenges in their own right. So that could certainly be a way that someone loses the championship if they're not strong around, say, the Netherlands or Saudi Arabia. They could lose some crucial points, and with 3 races after Saudi, that's not really enough time to bring back a points deficit. So we'll have to wait and see. But yes, a very, very exciting season ahead. I mean, Monaco being that One you don't really see often in regular league racing, so that's going to be extremely interesting to watch. And it being directly the halfway stage of the season, that's when the drivers will need to start performing. And what a track to do it at the toughest on the calendar.
Yeah, and we've seen last season throughout how important it is to stay strong in that middle sector, in the middle sector of the calendar, if you want to be the champion. And thankfully, last season's F4 champion, we are going to see tonight once more at F3. So we're quickly going to take a look at the driver placements. Just quickly up front, I'd like to apologize for you guys not being able to hear Max at the start when he did talk about what he thought of the calendar. You were able to hear it. We have changed the settings. I've changed the settings, so you'll be able to hear us all the way throughout the evening. And then I'll now give it on to Max so he can talk about the driver placements.
I'll get this done as quickly as possible because qualifying has just started. You got in Red Bull, Boba and Tom Martinez. Tom at 97. Mercedes have Riley McKay and Tristan Debecourt. And then we have Zach Miles and Ray's MTS in Scuderia Ferrari. McLaren have Ryan Grob and Tumas Laminen. Aston Martin, Quintino and Linus Donovan. Alpine, Andre Molnar and Leonardo Tonelato. Williams have the F4 champion Justin Ertz and Sasha Neeb. And then VCARB have Marcel Biega and Cuba. Kick Sauber have Simeone and Kennis. And then finally Haas have Lari, Tulki and Diego Zorzo. They are your full-time drivers for this evening, and qualifying is underway. His F4 debut last season in Monza. So far in his F3 debut, doing exactly the same. He's currently on provisional pole.
Yeah, it's currently doing quite well as we're on board with Tom 97, who is a driver on the flyer. He just missed the first 9 runs that came out. It won 14.7, the quickest one throughout. But I saw in the chat that we're talking about some lower 14s that they were able to do. So we're looking at some slightly quicker pole times. But it's nice to see Zorzo, who last season was driving an F4, has set the benchmark for the time being. Although we now see Tom go through that second sector before swinging it left to right through one of the faster bits of this circuit here in Melbourne. Seemingly taking it quite slowly, actually. I think he's backed off a little bit. At least that's how it feels. He's not fully going all out. He's also saved all of his energy, so I don't think he's on for a flyer just yet. Not sure if he's doing an extra run just to warm up those tires, or if he's just doing a little bit of a reconnaissance lap after a mistake. But given the fuel, I don't think he'll be continuing, and he indeed comes into the pit lane. We do have a couple of drivers on their out laps by the looks of it. That is a Racing Bull that is out first, and that will either be Kuba Traziak indeed. So let's see what Kuba can do here tonight.
Yeah, let's certainly see. Of course, this circuit feels so nice to get right. So for the VCARB, he'll be aiming to try and beat Diego Zorzo's lap time of a 14.769. And maybe be the first driver to break into the mid or low 1 minute 14. So out of the final corner, be DRS open, put the car up into hot lap. We'll be on our way as we're heading down into turn 1, braking around about 50 metres, get the car down to 5th gear, use all the curb on the exit of the corner. Be DRS open once again as you head through turn 2 and now up into turn 3, braking just at the black box down to 3rd gear. Then you get back on the power nice and gently, a bit of a slide there from Cuba as he heads through turn 4. It's flat through there as you then head through 5. This little kink right is 6. And then we'll be into 7 and 8. Downshift to 6. We've got to try flick the car in as harsh as possible, which he does. So he now heads through turn 8 now. Cuba, what is this going to be in the middle sector split? DRS open. There is a car in front of him, of course. We are still going to have the restarts after qualifying because collisions are still off for the slipstream as we now enter turns 9 and 10. A bit wide through the first apex, and he goes all the way off the road on the exit of turn 10. That's Cuba's lap over and done with. He has invalidated his lap time. Who is next on a lap time? It looks to be one of the Aston Martins. It's Linus Donovan, currently about to head into turn 11, braking at the 50-meter board, get the car down to third gear, use all the curb on corner exit. Very nicely done through there, easy to drop the rear. So now enters turn 12 and up into the final braking zone of turn 13. Easy to lock the left front, he doesn't do so. So he heads through the final corner now. Linus Donovan, what can he do? Another man moving up from F4. He's here in F3 and he goes up to the second row of the grid. Third place for Linus Donovan, then instantly beaten by Andre Molnar, who moves up to third place, and he's Alpine.
Yeah, and then next going to be across the line will be Tristan Dabacour as he's making his way around the final bend now onto the straight. He seemingly is a little bit short there with a 16.3, currently 13th and slowest Audi drivers all the way through. Givano's on for a lap. He is going to come into the pits as he is invalidated. Justin seems to be on for a... Actually, I'm not sure. It seemed like he set a lap time, but I think he might have invalidated earlier on. Still seems to be pushing quite a bit. And let's see what those sector times are going to be before we can fully establish whether he's on for a quick one or not. But I think he might as well be with the speed he's taking. Nah, he's not. He's saving a lot of energy. So no fast lap for Justin either. All the other drivers still... well, either done for it or heading into the pit lane. Sasha Neep currently on an out lap for Tom 97. He seems to be on the flyer. He's definitely taking a lot more speed there through that first sector. And with a 26.2, that is quite a stonking first sector as he makes his way into the second one. Almost fully flat out this second sector will be before he makes the left right-hander, where he will have to downshift just a tad bit into 7th, going through, taking a lot of curb. That was a very nice line, taking it as he now rounds off the second sector into 3rd. Hard braking onto the right, keeping it in 4th gear. Pretty good line there all the way through. And it looks like Tom is keeping that Red Bull quite steady, so he just has 2 more corners left to go. And when he makes his way onto that main straight, we're going to see if he comes anywhere near that fastest lap time set by Zorzo. Raiz has gone second momentarily, and Tom goes 12th fastest so far. And the next driver that will be on for a lap will be Sasha Neep.
Yeah, a lot of time lost there in that final sector from Tom 97. He was only down by 3/10 by the time he hit the middle sector split. So still plenty of time to find. So for Sasha, he's not set a lap time on the board so far. 26.2 in the first sector. Still a 10th down on provisional pole man Diego Zorzo. So we now enter through turn 8. It'll be DRS open halfway down this straight. There we go. DRS now open up to 8th gear. And you just want to keep it to the inside of this left-hander and then fling it all the way back to the right-hand side for turns 9 and 10. A bit of a wobble through turn 9, but able to keep the car pointing in the right direction. So we're now heading down into turn 11, braking at the 50-meter board. Clip the inside curb, takes a lot of it. That's going to send the car all the way out wide, and it actually invalidates the lap time. So for Sasha Neeb, that is not the way they would have wanted their qualifying to go so far. Once again, not getting a lap time on the board, and currently sitting in 19th place, with Kuba Tresiak also on a lap time now, trying to get himself off the back of the grid.
Yeah, so Kuba so far has not set a lap time yet. That was due to the invalidation in the first run that we saw earlier on, as more and more drivers are starting yet another run. Sammy Simeone is on for one, Giovanni Canes is on for one, Sasha Neeb we saw just a moment ago invalidating, Diego Zorzo also on for a lap, and more drivers on for an out lap. But for now, we are watching Kuba to see where his sector times are going to put him at. But first off, the second sector, it's a 43.5 purple sector it shows in the game as he goes through that left-right section quite quickly, with now heading into the final bit of the circuit. A little bit of traffic in his way, but of course they're ghosted out. That also means that we will still be doing a restart just like last season for that one reason, making sure that drivers don't get any weird slipstreams, which could put them a lot faster, as Kuba now comes across at exactly 1:15. That's a lovely time to see on the board. Unfortunately for Kuba, that's only enough for P9, sorry.
Yeah, Kuba, it was on par with Diego Zorzo in the first sector But through the middle in the final, just wasn't able to replicate at the time of the Haas drivers. Also has invalidated, so he'll come into the pit lane once again. Who else is on a flying lap? There is...
Gabriel's quick.
Gabriel Quintino all the way up in third place at the moment. What can the Aston Martin do? Can he still provisional pole away from Diego Zorzo as we're heading into turn 11? Nicely done through there as that was Marcel Biega moving himself up into 5th place. No, sorry, it was it was up Marcel Biega, sorry. Moving himself up to 5th. Mona heads up into 3rd place, only just in front of Gabriel Quintino. But can the Aston Martin man put himself onto the front row of the grid? He certainly can. And by a 10th of a second, puts himself on provisional pole with 5 minutes remaining in this qualifying session. And he leads across the line. The man just starting a lap, Reis Imtiaz, who currently sits in 3rd place. What can he do on his lap and his Scuderia Ferrari, as he is going to be the last person across the line on these next set of runs. So all eyes will be on Reis Imtiaz as we head into the first sector split and now into the middle sector. The Scuderia Ferrari looking to dethrone Gabriel Quintino, who's just hit the top of the times. But still, you can't count out the likes of Mona, Zorzo, or even Marcel Biega. So they still certainly will have some time to find, as Reis Imtiaz up by 35 thousandths of a second.
Yeah, so up only by just a little bit, but for now it is enough to bump himself up from 3rd into 2nd, although he comes out a little bit squabbly out of that fast zone in the 3rd sector. But here we are then, 3rd sector. Final few corners, he's actually going to dive into the pits. He knows if he completes this lap time, likely will not have enough time to go for another flyer, with about 4 minutes left on the clock, I believe. So the drivers are now going to abort most of their laps if they're not on for a really good one, because otherwise you will not have time for that final run. We see Justin has once again invalid. He'll be coming into the pit. Tom97 is on for a quick run so far. As I see, Tristan Debacor is also still on track. He's going to come into the pit lane, also invalidated. But I think Tom will be completing that lap, and indeed he will be, as there's 3 minutes and 50 seconds left on the clock. Tom now down the main straight. How far can he move up? From 18th, he goes to 16th. So he does move up a little bit, but has not been able to break that 115 barrier, go into the 114s. Only 9 drivers so far have been able to do so, and the driver that has done so best, Gabriel Quintino, up by almost a 10th and a half on the entire grid. But for now, we have a little bit of waiting before we're going to see our final runs. We're approaching the 3-minute mark, and the closer we get to that, the sooner we will see drivers leave that pit lane and set themselves up for one final run and try and attack that Aston Martin pole for the time being.
Yes, we certainly shall see. There are some cars now exiting out of the pit lane. The first of such is going to be Andre Molnar in his Alpine, currently lying in 4th place, half a tenth behind Reis Imtiaz. So are we going to see Molnar pull out a lap of all laps to try and put himself on to pole position here this evening down under? So for the Alpine, this is going to be an oh so crucial lap. He'll of course be the first driver around, so he won't have too much issues in terms of being distracted by drivers ahead, but he could certainly still be caught up with some traffic at the end of the lap. So Andre Molnar just going to try and get his tyres into temperature. He's going to try and get round as quickly as he possibly can, and he will have time, I reckon, for 2 runs in this final part of qualifying. So if he does make a mistake at the start of his first lap, he will have time to just back off, go again, and make sure his tyres are in the best condition possible to set the quickest lap and try and take that pole position away from Quintino. Quintino actually has stayed in the pit lane, so he's not coming out for now. Now he's coming out the pit lane. So he left it as late as possible to get the best track position as he can. But Andre Molnar is going to be the first man to challenge that pole position from the Aston Martin. Gets on the grass into turn 1, and he goes all the way off the road. The pressure getting to Molnar, but he does have time to just back off, get the car once again into the right window and go again. We have Boba in 9th place, currently in his Red Bull, the last of the drivers into the 1 minute 14s to try and beat Quintino now. So the Red Bull man currently out qualifying his teammate Tom Martinez. So as we head through turn 5 and turn 6, what's this going to be for the Red Bull driver? And he's up by just under a tenth of a second. This can promote him an abundance of places. So currently Myth Boba on a very, very nice lap time to maybe even row.
Yeah, the way he's doing it so far is already enough for a potential P5, but that second sector looked pretty smooth, and he indeed is a little bit quicker. Can he stick it through there? Seems to be sliding a little bit on the exit, but still on for quite a good run, improved by a little over a tenth, which for now will put him well around Andre Molnar's time if he does manage to improve here in that final sector. But I think he lost just a little bit of time with that moment he had. But now he comes around the final corner, is turn 14, as he's now making his way down the main straight. How well can Boba do? He goes from 9th to 5th as Andre Molnar has retired from the session. He won't be moving on. And I think what we have raised him as he just invalidated. Zorzo, though, is on for the run now. 2 corners left for him. We did not see his split sector times, but he's going to put it across the line. Will it be enough for an improvement to put him through? He will see the checkered flag as he comes through. He does not improve by 11 thousandths of a second, but the flag now has fallen. Kuba Trzeziak goes up into P4. Marcel Biga invalidated. Then we have Linus Donovan making his way around the final sector. 3 cars still in front of him. As we see Giovanni move up into 4th. Riley McKay, Zach Miles coming through as well. Then Linus Donovan stays in P9. Leonardo Tonolato, he's actually been bumped down by Lewis Walker, as now Leonardo's coming through 64 thousandths up in that second sector. Should be able to improve a little bit, but from P11 he can go to P8 for now. But the man who is on provisional pole and seems to be unbeaten for now is still on a run. Was down 26 thousandths of a second. Not many drivers still behind him. Gabriel Quintino seems to take the first pole of the season, but can he still improve once more? He can indeed, and that's a massive improvement. That's a 1:14.499, almost 3 tenths on the entire field. What a lap that was.
That was a stonking lap time there from Quintino, and that certainly was dropping the gauntlet. Everybody saying, look, even though I'm comfortable at the top, I still had that time in hand, and into the .4s, the only driver into the low 1 minute 14s. That's exactly what Quintino needed to do, just to maybe show everybody that there certainly is more pace in that British Racing Green machine. But he takes your first pole position of the season. We're just waiting on Laurie Tulkey to come into the pit lane and get his car rolled back into the garage. But what a way to cement yourself in the opening round of the season. From Gabriel Quintino, a whole 3 tenths clear of Diego Zorzo, who of course has had a really nice debut here in F3, just like his debut in F4, starting on the front row of the grid, and he'll certainly be happy with that one. So I'm going to run you through your grid for this evening. Of course, we do have that lobby restart to turn the collisions back on. But Quintino is your pole man here down under. Diego Zorzo in second, with Ray Imtiaz rounding off the top 3. Giovanni Kennis, then Cooper Trzeziak in 4th and 5th. Molnar and Boba in 6th and 7th. Tonolato and Marcel Biega at 8th and 9th. And then Donovan and Walker 10th and 11th. Tulkey and McKay 12th and 13th. Laminen in 14th. Miles, Aerts, Tom 97, Tristan Debecourt, Sammy Simeone, and Sasha Neeb round out your drivers here this evening. And for Simeone and Aerts, who of course both coming up from expecting so much of Justin in qualifying, because of course last season, even when he won the championship, he hardly ever qualified in the top 10. No insult there to Justin. But for Simeone, who was oh so quick in qualifying at the end of last season, Myth, quite a disappointing session from him, starting 19th. And with Sasha not setting really a competitive lap time, he was the slowest of all the drivers.
No, and I think there is a little bit more disparity between the drivers than we would normally expect. Because remember, Zorzo, who is on P2, set that lap time in his first run out. He went on for a total of 4 laps, I believe. He did not improve on that initial lap time, even though the track definitely did improve. So I think most of the drivers have not been able to improve as much as they would have liked to. And the only driver that did do is the man that we have on pole by about 3 tenths. So the margin seems to be a little bit bigger than it would normally be, as we now see, or at least I see, the drivers that are going to just retire before we are going for a lobby restart. That also means for us, we are going to take a quick break. We're going to move on to the mid-roll ads, and once we resume, we will resume talking about this lovely track where we're racing tonight, and also about the qualifying that we have just seen. We'll be back in a moment. And we are back. So welcome back from our little break, as we're still viewing the final bits in game before we can go to the lobby restart. We just had qualifying session, but what a qualifying session that was from the Aston Martin driver. Almost 3 tenths clear on the entire field, and that is quite a way to make your appearance here at the first race of the season, isn't it, Max?
Oh yeah, it really is. Just what a way to grab pole position, especially with the end of the session as well, because all the pressure was relieved, and then he could just smash out that final sector like he did. And yeah, pole position was he. So a very much a statement to the rest of the field to show that they're not as close as they really think they are in that qualifying session. But it's going to be interesting to see. Quali pace is one thing, race pace is another. Strategy plays a big part. And of course, with DRS being enabled after lap 1, that just makes it a little bit more difficult for Quintino to try and break away from the rest of the field. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting race. Strategy is going to play a big part. Probably a hard, medium, hard. That is your usual strategy around Australia. Maybe see somebody on the softs further back, like your Sasha Neeb, like your Simeone or Justin Ertz. So that is something to certainly look out for as well, is that strategy battle, because not only can you overtake around Australia, strategy will also play a big part, especially with how the tyres will act in this Grand Prix.
Will definitely play a big part, as we're currently at least seeing in the lobby that the drivers are selecting their teams before we can get started. That gives us a little bit of time to talk about the track we'll be driving at tonight, which will be, of course, Albert Park, Melbourne, Australia. So let's take a look at the track, and I'll give you some information on that. If I can get that. I thought I had it on hotkey, but I'll just switch over to it here. On the calendar since 96, 5.2 kilometers, 3.2 nautical miles, 14 turns with a lap record in race of a 120 in the real world. It's important to note here it's a semi-permanent track. They build it up 2 months before the race, and it stays a maximum of 6 weeks afterwards. So 2 detection points, so 1 detection after turn 6, with the zones turn 8, 9, 10, and 11, and the second detection just before turn 13, the final 2 corners, and then zone start finish line and turn 2 and turn 3. So that is how that works. We've seen quite some interesting battles all the way through, also in the real world. But I think one of the key things here is that there's only 2 tracks on the full F1 calendar that have 4 DRS zones, and the only track actually on the calendar that we have this season that has this many. So a lot of DRS zones means that the pack will be quite bunched up together, and I think it will be very important that you have a little bit of a similar strategy, so you can go in, stay within a DRS window, and then make some moves later on in the race. Because if you fall out of that DRS window, it's going to be very tough to get back into it, because there's just so much usage of that rear wing. and then it will be pretty much impossible for you to fight for that race win. So stay within the line, and then you have all to play for.
Yeah, you certainly do, and with the fact that, as you said, dropping out of the DRS so difficult because how much it's used, it's 2 back-to-back zones. So of course you have the run down to turn 1, then you have 2 and 3, and then between 8 and 9, and then 10 and 11, having it back-to-back just makes it 10 times harder to try and get into that DRS because you gain through those corners, and then you're like, oh, I've just lost it all again. So that's really what the drivers need to be aiming for, even if it's just keeping 9 tenths behind the car in front. Just making sure they have that rear wing open down those DRS straights can be oh so crucial. And on the strategy, with everyone bunching up under those DRS circumstances, not want to go for moves, that could make the undercut a little bit more powerful than you could imagine. Because, of course, you'll be on fresher tyres, more grip, and you won't have that issue of having to brake earlier than everybody else in front of you, and you can just push on into that clear air. So that's something to look out for as well this evening. But we also need to look out for the chaos that DRS can also enable, especially at the end of the Grand Prix. Drivers could be going 2-3 wide at times for positions, and also just a bunching up can certainly cause some front wing damage at the start of the Grand Prix. We have to wait and see, though, how these drivers react to this one. I'm expecting them to react quite nicely, but still, it's going to be a very interesting Grand Prix. Many different elements for the drivers to look out for, and that is just what makes a race around Australia so much more exciting.
It really does, and one of the key moments as well will be the start, because you have a decent run into turn 1, but then it narrows down into your right-left-hander. That means that the cars will all get bunched up quite closely. It's very easy to make contact with one another, so you have to make sure you keep it clean through this first couple of quarters and try and perhaps gain a couple of positions into turn 3 where it's that tad bit safer to overtake. So drivers will need to be wary of that. We see in the meantime that they're asking about the drivers that still need to pick their car, and once the final 2 have done so, we'll be able to get ready for this first race of the season. We already mentioned we have quite a few tracks in succession before we have a 1-week break, 4 more races, we have another break, and then the final 3 of this 12-race calendar that will be ending in about 3 months' time, the end of January, so quite a packed calendar indeed. We're starting down under, as you also said, Max. Melbourne, lovely place to visit as well, but I think the track all the way through, aside from the things that we have already mentioned, I think it really deserves this place on the calendar. Of course, I mentioned it's been on the calendar since '96, the year I was born. Although it did replace quite another iconic track. I mean, I do find it kind of a shame that we don't have a track like Adelaide anymore, but definitely not a bad race to replace it with, isn't it?
Yeah, it certainly was a good replacement for Adelaide, but yeah, Adelaide was such a iconic circuit, of course, and it was just, I feel, a bit more challenging than Australia from what I've seen, especially with like the V8 supercars and stuff like that. It just seems a bit more of a challenge to Adelaide compared to Albert Park, but still a very, very solid replacement here in Australia for this circuit. Of course, I would love for F1 to travel to Bathurst and go for Mount Panorama, but I don't ever see that happen due to the safety risks. But yeah, that would be certainly where I would hold the Australian Grand Prix if I could. But yeah, Albert Park, a worthy replacement, and it certainly does need its spot on the calendar in PSGL, I would say, for this season and the next, because it's such a fun track to go to. And with the 4 DRS zones, it just makes it 10 times better. The racing is closer, and it means we get more moves for the lead, and it makes it more difficult for the likes of Quintino, Zorzo and Imtiaz to break away from the rest of the field behind, because they're so tightly congested. They're like sardines over those opening few laps.
They're like sardines indeed, and we'll see if one of those cans will be cracked in a moment. We have now loaded in, so I'll take you through to the... happening, at least with the weather. It seems to be clear for now, so let's hope it stays dry all the way through. But I think if there will be any weather changes, the drivers will let us know in the chat, as they will be complaining about it then a little bit. Just seeing if everything works out with the stream. I think it does. So yeah, we are just waiting for the drivers to load in their setups. Then we will also know what tires they will be driving on. But as Max already mentioned, likely most will be starting on the hards. Otherwise, we'll see a couple drivers on the mediums to try and be a little bit on an alternative strategy. But aside from that, I expect most drivers to go for the same thing. And here we go then. We have everyone lined up. We have 4 and 5 are at lights on now. And we are on our way with a quick start from the Aston Martin on the outside, but looks like Diego Zorzo will immediately try to move into the inside, but slots in behind. Let's see if we keep it all clean through that first corner. A couple drivers onto the grass. Kuba has been demoted a little bit too much. Laminin and Tom as well, but it looks like we've all collected clean so far, with Kuba trying to make a move on the inside of Givano, but Givano sticking there on the inside once more, pushing him a little bit wide. It looks like Givano's hold on to that 4th place, and immediately Kuba has to watch behind for Boba, who seemingly has made a quite good start. Let's get that telemetry on and see how the drivers did so far.
Yeah, that top 3 all going for the medium compound tie. Here comes Tonelato on Marcel Biega, and Linus Donovan also going to try and capitalise on this one as well. He's going to be pushing the Alpine as he's going side by side with the V-Carb as well. Biega around the outside, contact, and Donovan just keeping control of his car, and capitalising this is Laminin on Lari Tulki, who got held up, did the Haas, as he's now looking to the inside of Linus Donovan. He's on the medium compounded tyres versus the hards of the Aston Martin, and Tulki, he's surely going to get this one done on the inside of turn 12, and through he goes in his Haas up into that top 10, and we have a McLaren Civil War here already on this opening lap as Lewis Walker barging his way past Thomas Laminin, and then we all settle down slightly as we head down that main straight. The top 3 on the medium, same with Boba, Tulki, Ayertz, Debacor and Neve. Everybody else on the hards, and crucially that top 3 on the mediums, they've broken the DRS to Giovanni behind, and that could be oh so crucial, especially with Boba going to try and make some inroads on 4th and 5th place, and that could certainly open that gap even wider to the top 3 cars.
Yeah, top 3 cars already 1.2 seconds away, but that also means that Givano will be quite a sitting duck here, as I would assume that Zorzo is going to go for the move onto Gabriel Quintino. Indeed, round the outside he goes, as now Givano has to concede 2 positions with the driver, at least the driver now up ahead. Kuba will be trying to hunt down Raiz Imtiaz, who is about 1.1 seconds away currently, the Ferrari up ahead. So he will need to close that gap as soon as possible. But the medium runners do have that slight advantage for now, and they might be able to make good use of it later down the line, stopping earlier, building a little bit of a gap, and as a result, making it much more difficult for all those other drivers to try and catch up. Boba, though, now up in P5, has done well on those mediums, but he needs to make sure that he slots in behind the front 3 runners. Also, pretty good start for Justin, who's up in P15, the champion from last season. And Lewis Walker and Thomas Laminin, we saw them almost come together at the end of that first lap. The McLaren drivers already having a little bit of a tussle, but for now we have 2 groups. So your top 3, which is in 1 DRS train, and after that we have all the way from 4th until 20th, the drivers within a second of one another.
Yes, they certainly are, and Cuba is really trying to make some inroads on that top 3 and break that 1 second barrier, but it won't be enough as here comes Boba to the inside. A nice little DRS move here from the Red Bull man, and him being on those mediums could certainly mean that he can catch up to Raiz Imtiaz. 1.1 is the gap, so they exit out of turn 10. It looks like no moves are going to be made further down the order just yet as we hit the brakes into turn 11, and Marcel Biega was getting close to Tonelato in front, but still has to look in the mirrors from Lari Tulki behind. Tulki all crossed up through the penultimate corner. Boba is now within DRS range of that top 3, so that's going to bring the rest of the field with him. He set the fastest lap as well to boot. So we're going to now see everybody in this field within DRS range of one another. That just shows how hard the Red Bull man was pushing on that last tour of the circuit, and he can now pose a threat to that top 3, and with him keeping those DRS runners in check. Those hard runners in check with the DRS certainly can now allow that hard medium strategy to maybe be the better one that's better off, because these medium tyres will of course make the drivers come in earlier and they could squabble for positions, while the hard runners in those clean air can just swap around and make sure they get and pull ahead as much as possible. But Boba getting closer, not able to get it done, as Riley McKay able to get past Justin Ertz, and he's also going to maybe look for Zach Miles into turns 9 and 10.
Yeah, so let's move on to them, as we saw Larry trying to make a move now, actually round the outside. He wants to go of that Racing Bull, tries to go for the switchback, but seemingly stuck behind Marcel Biga for the time being, even though he is on those mediums. Goes a little bit wide out of turn 12, and that will cost him a little bit of time, but also Marcel making a mistake in turn 13. Will that set him up for a move down on the main straight? Looks like he is a little bit too far away. And behind, you were mentioning earlier that Riley McKay has dispatched Justin, who is also on the mediums. Riley on the hards, doing quite well in that Mercedes, trying to close in on Zach Miles. The gap from Zach Miles onto Thomas Lavinen, almost 9 tenths now, so needs to make sure he doesn't fall out of the DRS window. Otherwise, he, in turns, will be easily overtaken by Riley McKay, as Justin is trying to amp up the pace on the back of that Mercedes once more. But back at the front of the grid, we see Zorzo has moved back within 2 tenths of Gabriel Quintino. Is he going for the move once more, or will he be happy just to stay behind because he knows overtaking? He does go for the overtake actually, but he knows the overtakes are not going to be as important as they were earlier on. They needed it then to break away. They did do so successfully, but after that catch-up play by Boba, it is now not so important anymore, as Kuba Traziak really getting close to the back of that Red Bull. But for now, they are seemingly stuck in a terrain, waiting for either mistakes to happen or waiting for that pit stop sequence to start. But I would assume that, a little bit of a late move from Molnar, as he has a little cheeky look down the inside of Kuba. But I would assume the pit stops, the first medium runners are going to come in around lap 12 or 13, so we still have a little way to go for that. The hard runners likely will stop around the 15 or 16 mark, as they don't want to stop too much later than all the medium runners, otherwise it will be very, very hard to catch up, as we mentioned before.
Yeah, it certainly will, as Molnar was looking for that move. I think he was just caught out a little bit by Treziak's braking there, just a little bit earlier than he probably would have thought. But with this, all these drivers behind Reyes and Quintino can now just build up the battery they once burned at the start of this race to try and keep with that top 3. And they are now all up near the 90%. Here comes Quintino on Zorzo. Is Reyes going to try get close enough for a move? No, he's just going to back out of it, and he's not going to go for a move, but he's still got Boba all over the back of him. So DRS open once again as we head into turn 11. Will Zorzo fight back against Quintino? Probably not, as we head into the right-hander. Down to third gear, get the car back on the power very nicely. And once again, everybody just playing it safe for now. Everyone's just waiting for that mistake, that one error from the car in front, as Molnar once again looking for the move on Treziak there. And that is really where Molnar is making dividends and really making up that time, as Boba is actually ghosting inside of Treziak. So I don't know if there was any lag or maybe a little slide that causes the Red Bull to lose some time. But Treziak not able to get the move done, goes wide out of turn 2, and this now allows Molnar to go round the outside into turn 3 of not one, but maybe even 2 of them. What a move this would be! We're 3 wide through turn 3, and Andre Molnar, in the first round of the season, has brought out a season, an overtake of the season contender there, round the outside of 2 cars into turn 3. The Alpine man absolutely loving life there, and Justin Ertz, your F4 champion, is out on lap 7 of 29. That's the virtual safety car, and it's on the exit of turn 6. I don't know if he's got caught up with Riley McKay, because he's now down into 19th as well. But for Justin, a horrid way to start off his campaign to maybe try go for back-to-back championships. But down into out of the Grand Prix now in the opening round of the season, that is a disaster for Justin.
Yeah, and he seems to be quite unhappy in the chat. Mentioning words I won't repeat here on the stream, but I think there indeed was some contact with Riley and perhaps with other drivers as well that has caused him to retire from this race. But what an overtake indeed from Andre Molnar, what we were seeing just earlier on. He saw that little mistake from Kuba Traziak open up the door for him, and then going 3 men wide into turn 3, mind you. 3 men wide in the corner was really not possible. I was just waiting for it to end in tears. It did not end in tears, and he did it very, very nicely and clean as well. So now up in P4, as we see quite a few drivers have gone for the pit stop, with the virtual safety car now ending as DRS has been reactivated. Zach Miles has retired, but I believe he got a penalty for speeding in the pit lane. But we've seen Boba, Larry Toki, Sasha Neeb, Tristan Dabacour, Sammy Simeone and Riley McKay come into the pit. But for Sammy and Riley, they are now on the mediums, and that will be a little bit too much to try and finish the race in. So I think they'll be coming in for a pit stop later on. The hard runners perhaps will try to stick it out. Big question is if they will be able to hold on to those tires for long enough. It's a little bit of a gamble that these drivers are taking, but Max, I don't think it's a bad idea at all. It's definitely worth a shot.
It certainly is, because, I mean, most of those drivers certainly had...
Oh, Zorzo overshot!
Zorzo overshooting turn 11. I was on board with Lewis Walker at the times. He was looking menacing to Linus Donovan. And here comes Molnar now around the outside. He actually has a slide. That bunches everybody up as he's going to try hold it around the outside of Molnar, who's now on the inside, heading down into turn 1. Treziak and Tonelato both side by side as well. Molnar on the inside of Zorzo. Zorzo goes wide. This allows Molnar to keep his momentum. A little bit of contact made. And here comes Treziak on the pair of them. And Tonelato as well. The two Alpines going side by side. Treziak now around the outside late on the brakes. From the V-carb, there's a little bit of contact, a little bit of tyre rubbing between the pair as they now head up through turn 5. Who's going to be as brave as they can be? As that was Tonelato hitting the wall. Simeone's retired in the pit lane. Treziak wins out in that battle for 3rd place, and that's now put Zorzo on the back foot through turn 8 as Molnar now all over the back of the Haas man. Is he going to get close enough to make a move into turns 9 and 10? He's going to pull to the outside line. Is Andre Molnar. He's just going to back out of it low. He's going to make sure Zorzo gets the worst run on that tighter inside line as there goes Reyes on Quintino. Here comes Molnar and Zorzo, and he gets the move done. And Kennis is also going to try and follow him through. He's around the outside through turn 11, goes off the road, picks up a 3-second time penalty as he's trying to hold it around the outside through turn 12. Nothing doing there. Is he going to look for it into turn 13? No, just elects to not go for it. But a very chaotic lap there for Diego Zorzo as Linus Donovan's able to get past Marcel Biega. And for Tonelato, I'm surprised he doesn't have any damage, because he absolutely clouted that outside wall through turn 5. And he's still in this race, currently sitting in 7th. But he's a very lucky boy not to pick up any damage there, as Reyes now leads this Grand Prix on lap 10 of 29 with Larry Talkie now taking the fastest lap of this Grand Prix.
Yeah, and they're gaining quite a bit on the drivers up ahead. That gap after the pit stop was about 13 seconds to drivers up ahead, has already cut down to 10.5 seconds. So they will come out quite a bit ahead of all the other drivers. And with the other medium runners stopping probably in a few laps, they will have to battle with about 4 or 5 lap older hards. So, as we are also seeing in the chat, these two drivers, Larry Tolke and Boba, might have just cooked on with a great strategy and might be able to get a race win as a result. But we've seen how quickly that can all turn around. Zorzo was leading the race momentarily, made one slight error, and he has been dropped down, demoted onto P5. So that's how quickly things can change and how quickly the drivers will be bunched up together. And Raiz, he recognizes that undercut threat. He is going in for an early pit stop. Zorzo is going to follow suit, but they know they need to make a pit stop now before that gap builds too much and before they'll be out of contention for a race win. They will be coming out behind Boba and Lara Tolki, but how far behind the two will they come out? I think it's going to be about a second or 4.5 by the looks of it. And it is 4.6 now. Actually up to 5.3, 5.4. So quite a big gap that he has to cut back onto Larry Tolke. And with only 3 lap fresher tires, that might be quite a tough ask for him already.
Certainly will be, especially with Lari having DRS from Boba in front. Is Tresiak able to get past Quintino and Molnar able to get repassed? Kennis as well. Quintino starting to struggle on those medium tyres, having a big slide out of turn 10. Here comes Molnar to the outside, has to back out of that one. Nearly got put into the wall there. There was not a car's width between himself and Quintino, and that was going to be an ever-closing gap. So as we now head through turn 12 and up into turn 13, Tresiak can now start to build his advantage ever so slightly, with Molnar being stuck behind Quintino as another slide out of turn 14. So DRS open for Molnar once more. Is he going to go for the move? No, he's electing to stay behind once again, maybe get the run out of turns 1 and 2 on the Aston Martin in front. Here comes the Alpine, burning that battery. Is he going to look to the inside line? It could be a last gasp move on the brakes, but no, sits behind once more. Quintino, for Molnar's race here, really needs to keep the Tresiak in front, and it does look like he's going to be able to do so, as Sasha Need now picks up a 3-second time penalty, as MTS now up to 6.4 behind Boba and Tilke. This could be an absolute masterclass of a strategy from the Haas and the Red Bull man, as Molnar now under pressure from Kennis, who's looking to the inside line. He's using his battery. Molnar, I think, is just going to stay in front here. Yes, he is. The Alpine just staying in front for now. He really needs to get that move done on the Aston Martin. He's putting him under too much pressure from the kick Sauber behind, and not going for the move there is Kennis. Neither is Molnar, but Lewis Walker sending it round the outside of Linus Donovan. Is he going to pull this one off the McLaren now around the outside through turn 12? That will be bold. It is brave, and it is absolutely beautiful so far from Lewis Walker. Now around the outside through turn 14. He's able to hang on to 6th place, and that was absolutely stellar defending from Lewis Walker, as now he might have just allowed his teammates to try and get the move done as Quintino's into the pit lane, but Laminen having to sit behind Linus Donovan. But where does Quintino come out compared to Zorzo and Imtiaz?
Yeah, it looks like compared to the other drivers, he will seemingly come behind a second and a half as he's now leaving the pit lane. Let's see how big that gap is going to be, because he needs to close within that DRS window quickly, and the gap is now 1.7 seconds. We've seen what DRS can do around this track. When Diego Zorzo and Reyes Imtiaz left the pit lane, the gap to Larry Toki and Boba was 5.5 seconds. It is now 6.1. They will gain time when they are driving throughout the track, but when they reach the DRS zones, they will be starting to lose a little bit of time up ahead, because they don't have that pool that these other drivers do have. And it looks like that early pit stop gamble during the virtual safety car could be a very crucial one later down the line, as two drivers as in the top 3 currently have some penalties to their name. Means that we are going to take a quick look at all the penalties that we have. 3 seconds for all the drivers that are on the screen. So Kuba Tresiak, Jivano Kennis, Sasha Neeb, and Tristan Dabacour, who have 3 seconds to their name because of exceeding the track limits 3 times. As we now see Andre Molnar really getting close to the back. That's a massive move out of turn 2. And before breaking into turn 3, he's already dispatched Kuba Tresiak. He now leads this Grand Prix, at least on the road. But after pit stops have been completed, we will see that race lead go to Larry Toki, who's almost closed that gap back down to half. It was a little over 6 seconds. It's now 3.1 over to Tom. Tom's 2.6 behind the rest of the pack. But the gap to Zorzo is actually coming down now a little bit. 5.6 now. But can Zorzo and MTS bring it down quickly enough to still put themselves up for a fight?
Certainly could do. It's now 5.7 seconds as Boba. It could now swap once again with Larry Tulki. And that was crucial from Molnar to get that move done. Tresiak got it all wrong out of turns 1 and 2. Just took too much inside curb through 1, and that put him so far wide as Molnar actually goes deep into turn 13. He's starting to struggle here as well with some rear traction is Andre Molnar, but Tresiak also having quite similar issues on 14 lap-old hard compound tyres now as we enter the brakes into turns 1 and 2 once more. And for Tresiak and Kennis, they really need to just hope they don't pick up any more track limit warnings, because they certainly still could get this penalty removed as Tresiak very late on the brakes, nearly into the back of Andre Molnar. He thought about it but just wasn't close enough to get alongside under braking, and that's now put him under abundance of pressure from Giovanni Kennis behind. So the Kick Sauber looking to get a good run out of turn 7 and 8 as you open up the DRS on the back of that Kick Sauber once more. DRS open now as Larry Talkie is really catching up to Tom 97 as there goes Tresiak on Andre Molnar for that race lead. And once again, a nice and easy DRS switch as now Molnar will be under pressure from Kennis, who have DRS. Molnar does not, and Kennis not going to be able to go for the move, and Tonelato nearly into the back of Giovanni Kennis. And that could have been an absolute disaster as Tonelato was probably just only a few pixels away from going into the back of the Kick Sauber. But look at Tresiak now starting to build that gap. 6/10 so far at the end of this lap. So is Molnar starting to struggle. Has he pushed too soon on those hard compounded tyres? And is he going to start falling backwards through the field?
Yeah, in a couple of laps' time, these hard runners are also going to make it into the pit lane, as we're now looking at your provisional race leaders. Boba, who is now in P10, followed by Larry Tolke. The gap to Zorzo still 5.2 seconds, so quite a big gap that they have to overcome. But I think the drivers that will be coming into the pit lanes here, top 9, will rather be fighting on those mediums with the pairing behind them of Zorzo, Imtiaz, and also Quintino. We see Quintino stop 2 laps later. He was within the same DRS train as Zorzo and Imtiaz. Quintino stopped later, came out 1.6, 1.7 seconds adrift, and the gap has now built up to 2.4. He is unable to close the gap because there are 4 DRS zones. Timing your pit stop in cohesion with what your competitors do is also crucial on this track. If you don't do it, it's just not possible to get back within the DRS window, and it's not possible to put yourself back into that fight. And I think the drivers up ahead on the hards will hopefully at least understand that, so that if one goes into the pit, at least do follow suit. We have Donovan, Laminen, Biga, and Tom 97 come in now, so I assume that the top 5 will be coming in at the end of the next lap, so at the end of lap 17, and then it will fully put Larry Tulki and Boba at the front of the race. But Imtiaz and Zorzo are now slowly but surely starting to close, and you see one lap they gain quite a bit, then the next lap it's a little bit less. So they're playing a little bit with their ERS usage in order to try and close the gap. It's still 12 laps to go. They have managed to cut it down by almost 2 seconds already, but will they be able to close that gap enough, or will it be a gap that is unsurmountable after all?
We can only wait and see, but Tulki and Boba both doing brilliant DRS plays as there's Molnar squeezing Kennis into the outside wall. Kennis tried following Tresiak through, and now is his opportunity, but this is allowing Tonelato to get the pair of them as he heads down into turn 11. Brilliantly done and brilliantly opportunistic from Tonelato. Lewis Walker now looking to try and get a move done on Kennis too, but not able to go to the inside through turn 12, but going for it into turn 13. Walker rubbing all over the side of that side pod there of the Kick Sauber, and Tonelato and Lewis Walker both into the pit lane. Molnar, Tresiak and Kennis all staying out an extra lap. Let's see where Walker and Tonelato come out in comparison to the rest of those hard runners that have just boxed onto the mediums. So that driver leading that train is Linus Donovan in his Aston Martin. Lewis Walker and Tonelato coming out behind this train, and that is crucial for their races as Walker nearly into the side of Sasha Neeb as well. But this just shows how crucial that undercut really is, with Lewis Walker and Tonelato now a second behind the other medium as they got a dispatch of Sasha Neeb first before they can even get close to the back of Marcel Biega. So disaster for Walker and Tonelato, and that surely spells trouble for Tresiak, Molnar and Kennis, who have stayed out this extra lap, and they are now in a spot of bother.
Yeah, they're definitely going to come out around the place where Tom 97 is. But what I'm very impressed by, Tom was 2.5 seconds down on this whole field. He stopped a lap earlier, and all of a sudden, he's gone awfully close to Leonardo Tonelato. I think he just made a mistake, though, because he was within that DRS window a moment ago. But Leonardo Tonelato picked up a time penalty for track limits, has now cleared Sasha Neeb, but that will cost him later on down the line, as we now see the top 3 into the pit lane means that your net race lead is now also moved on to Larry Tulke, who's fighting it out with Boba for the time being. Diego Zorzo's actually left the session. That might be a very unfortunate disconnect, because he was up there fighting with Raiz Imtiaz, and Imtiaz has managed to bring the gap down to 3.5. If he can continue to close down this gap, we might see a fight with Imtiaz, Boba, and Larry Tulke for the race win, but I think aside from that, the other drivers will not be able to get close enough. Thomas Laminen is 4.2 seconds away from Gabriel Quintino, who's now seriously held up by Zorzo's Ghost. But this could spell trouble for drivers up ahead, and for Larry Tulke and Boba, this is a season opener to remember, because they have done everything perfectly so far.
Yes, they certainly have, but you still can't count out those medium runners. As there goes Biega on Thomas Laminen. But now, this is so crucial. These medium runners all have to work together now. They can't fight over track position. They've just got to try stick within DRS of one another and just let the front of the field pull them along. So Marcel Biega leading this train is about 2.5 seconds. 3.5 seconds behind Quintino. Of course, we'll get the DRS from Diego Zorzo car, but I don't think he'll be close enough to get it, so it will be Laminen with the earliest medium runner to get that DRS heading down that main straight and into turns 1 and 2. Hopefully for Biega, though, he's able to get past Zorzo's car with some ease. Sasha Neeb now picks up another 3-second time penalties. Here comes Laminen to the inside of Marcel Biega. He puts himself now at the front of this medium runner field, and just look how slow Zorzo's car goes as that Sasha Neeb off as well in turn 3 and into the gravel. But for Laminen, he's all stuck behind Diego. Also, that's going to bunch everybody up, and Zorzo's now back into the lobby, so that could maybe even cause a little bit of drama at this stage of the Grand Prix. Through goes Laminen, through goes Biega. Here comes Donovan as well as Lewis Walker also follows through. Just look at it all behind Thomas Laminen, as there goes Mona through as well. Zorzo, his AI dropping him an abundance of places, as Laminen able to come out on top in all of that. It was nearly 5 wide heading down that back straight, but just the carnage those AIs can cause. 4 seconds pretty much is that gap between Quintino and Laminen, so that's going to be a real big gap to try and hunt down. So him and Biega, Donovan and Walker all need to work together here. That front 4 of the queue just need to make sure they don't battle each other, and they'll certainly be able to close in on Gabriel Quintino. And that gap between Raiz Imtiaz and Boba, 3 seconds. So they have actually gained a bit of time out in front, and it's now 3.2 as here comes Biega to the inside of Laminen, and here comes Kuba Tresiak to the inside as well of both Linus Donovan and Lewis Walker. But Lewis Walker turning this into an opportunity to attack the Aston Martin in front. He moves up into 7th place, and there could be some inter DRS train squabbles, and this could maybe affect the structure of how this train functions and the overall race when it comes to chasing down that top 2 in the race lead.
So unfortunate though for Zorzo. Was in P4 fighting with Raiz Imtiaz for P3 when he got that disconnect. He got back into the lobby just before the first DRS zone, well, the second DRS zone of the lap started, the one at turn 8, and that resulted in him losing 6 positions on 1 DRS straight. That's the most I've seen any driver lose. Oh, there's big contact in the back. Kuba Tresiak making contact with Leonardo Tonelato, and there's damage. There's some big damage for the RB driver as he hits another wall heading into the pit lane and is retired from the session. But that was a huge contact. I believe it was coming out of turn 12 when I'm not entirely sure who made contact with who, but that will cost Kuba Tresiak some valuable points in this season opener. But if you look further up ahead, the race that we've been talking about all the way through, Raiz Imtiaz has 7 more laps to close the gap to Boba and Larry Tulke up ahead. That is now 2.8. Hasn't been able to bring it down by much. Gabriel Quintino also not able to go by quicker than Raiz Imtiaz. That gap has built up just a little bit. Behind Thomas Laminen is able to close a little bit onto Quintino, but before he's onto the back of Larry and Boba, he needs to clear a whopping 8 seconds. That is not going to be possible, as Raiz has a big moment there coming out of turn 11. So that will cost him a little bit of time as well. Will allow Gabriel Quintino to snap away another half a second of that gap. But I think the fight for the race win, Max, is going to be between Larry and Boba.
It certainly is. It just seems that they have performed this strategy so nicely. I'm surprised the likes of Ray's Imtiaz and Quintino didn't come in with those drivers onto the virtual safety car, because it just seemed like the right time to do it. You lose less time and you're onto that tire you need to go onto anyway, and they will make it to the end of this Grand Prix. Obviously, they just didn't think it'll be quick enough to be able to hold on, but with all this squabbling with these medium runners and with Zorzo as well getting that disconnect, it just makes it so much more likely that that battle on the final lap will be between Tulki and Boba. So as we now exit out of turn 8 with the likes of Andre Molnar, Walker and Laminen, we head up once again into turns and 10, still doing their switcheroos, and another half a second has been lost from Ray's Imtiaz onto Gabriel Quintino. So I don't know if the Ferrari's got to start to struggle here with some tyre wear, but Quintino is now looking and threatening for a podium. Of course, he was your man on pole position as Kennis, I saw in the background there, going straight on at turn 11. And Giovanni Kennis, I don't know if he's got onto the grass under braking, but he has gone all the way off the road in the turn 11 in the final sector, and that has cost him any chance of scoring some good points here this evening. Here comes Andre Molnar on Marcel Biega. He moves himself up into 7th place, and now only has the 2 McLaren drivers in front of him out of all the medium runners. So here comes Andre Molnar once again, this time on Thomas Lanneman, who went wide out of turn 2, squeezed all the way up to the outside wall, but just not going to be able to get the switch back and cut underneath the McLaren in front of him through turns 4 and 5. And for Andre Molnar, he's going to have to sit behind for now. Currently sitting in 7th place. He's got 5th and 6th in front of him. I think that's going to be the best place he can finish, because Gabriel Quintino is closing up to Ray's Imtiaz and not really losing too much time to those medium runners behind, whose mediums will start to be around about the same wear as those drivers in front of them.
Yeah, it looked to be that Giovanni was pushed a little bit wide on the entry off turn 11, was on the grass braking. That caused him to go off the track there and lose quite a few positions. And now, with 3.3 seconds away, won't be able to close up with the drivers up ahead. So sadly, no points for him, as we have a late send from Andre Molnar. We've seen it do it that many times before, as we have a yellow. That is, I think that's Sashanib, who's gone off. Has he got damage? He has got damage. He's lost the front wing. There's no safety car or anything. We're approaching that stage of the race where we're not going to have any safety car interference. In the meantime, though, Gabriel Quintino has managed to close the gap onto Ray's Imtiaz. Boba has made a mistake as well. That gap almost a second to Larry Tulki. But good news for Gabriel, who will now be fighting with Raiz for a spot on the podium. Lewis Walker is 2.7 seconds away. I don't think they're going to be closing in. And Boba's fallen outside the DRS window. This is great news for Larry Tulki. There is indeed no DRS. Well, there still was DRS for Boba. My excuses. He still does have DRS, so we'll be able to just catch back up. But that was awfully close. Larry almost getting away with that. But Raiz, he lost a lot of time. Now Gabriel's gone for the overtake, but I think Raiz has a little bit of issues with the exit of turn 11. We didn't see him have that issue just this lap, as we had some pretty hard braking into turn 13. But this does mean that Gabriel has now taken over that final podium spot. There still is some DRS, so Raiz will be able to have a good fight with Gabriel up ahead. Behind him, Andre Molnar will try to hunt him down with the rest of the pack. That gap, 2.5 seconds. We're in lap 26 of 29. Seems to be just a few laps too many to close that gap. But up ahead, the two men, Larry Tulki and Boba, they have put up a well-deserved strategy play here. And it looks like they'll be able to walk away with tons and tons of points.
Yes, they certainly will be able to. It's been a masterclass of a strategy from Tulki and Boba, and Molnar pulled off another brilliant double overtake, this time into turns 9 and 10 last lap. to get by both of the McLarens. So he's pulled out 2 overtake of the season contenders in the first round of the season. So for Imtiaz, he's able to get past Quintino once more, and Boba still over the back of Laurie Talk. He'll be starting 3 laps to go once we cross this start-finish line, as Laminen all over the back of his teammate Lewis Walker. They are really closing in on Quintino and Imtiaz in front now as they sit behind Andre Molnar. He's brought that gap down by about half a second through this lap. Molnar with an abundance of pace, it seems, so far on these medium compounded tires. He's in that clean air now so he can unleash it, and just look how much time he's finding. So he could still have a battle with these medium runners, with Quintino and Imtiaz. So that is certainly something to look out for, because just the commitment, the absolute sheer drive and passion that Molnar is showing behind the wheel of that Alpine is showing that he certainly wants this P3. He's determined for it, and he's not going to let it get away from his grasp that easily. So 3 laps to go here in Australia. Laurie Talkie still leading the way from Boba, from Imtiaz, from Quintino, then Molnar. That is your top 5, with Molnar hunting down Imtiaz and Quintino. That gap now 1.4 seconds.
Yeah, really cutting away a lot of time there, and it looks like Molnar has found that pace that he needs to find, but will he be able to find it in the second to last lap, or will he only be getting within that DRS window in that final lap? But behind him, Lewis Walker is getting awfully close together with Thomas Laminen. The gap now increased on entry into turn 11 as Linus Donovan is trying to have a little look, but not enough to have a send of any sorts. Molnar still 1.6, but he needs to gain here. We have yellow, and that is for, I think is it Tonelato? No, Tonelato has moved back up. It was a step out from Sasha once again, so he's been lapped by all the other drivers. Currently running on the softs. I'm not entirely sure if he just wants to go for fastest lap or what he is up to, but sadly for him, it is a race to forget. But with 2 laps remaining, the fight up ahead is still on, and well on, between Larry Toki and Boba. Gabriel Quintino behind 4 seconds. That will not play into their deficit, as they will be able to fight it out with the pair of them. Behind, though, Andre Molnar has just picked up a penalty, but is also getting awfully close to raise Imtiaz up ahead. I think in the final lap, they will be able to get within the DRS window. Whether it will be enough to get some overtakes done, I doubt so. But I think Raiz is just waiting for it, hoping he can still overtake Gabriel at the end, go for a P3. But up ahead, the fight will be between Boba and Larry Token. It looks like Boba has given the jump start already, as he wants to enter the final lap in the race lead. But is he going to concede on that first place in this final lap with the 4 DRS zones still to come, or will he be hanging on to it? The final lap is on now.
It certainly is, and further back, Ray's Imtiaz now going for it on Quintino into turn 1.
They're all back.
Walker also looking to capitalise as they head into that first corner. There goes Quintino being dropped to the outside and just forced wide, and that opens the door for not only Walker but Laminen and Molnar as well. Look at that, fifth wide into turn number 3. Molnar nearly getting 4 cars in one, and it seems that Imtiaz has picked up some front wing damage. Molnar with a big slide out of turn 5. Imtiaz all over the road as well. Here comes Laminen on Ray's Imtiaz. He could still fight for this final place on the podium. There's Walker now going for the move to the inside line as Talkie and Boba. Talkie able to get past Boba here, and that's surely the race won from the man who has pulled off a masterclass of the strategy at the front. Imtiaz back to the race lead. To third place. Boba not able to get close enough to Talkie. This could be a run to the line, but further back it's still kicking off for third place. The 2 McLarens now going side by side. Here comes Molnar once again, not able to pull the move off. But what happens at the front of the field? Laurie Talkie has pulled off a masterclass of a strategy. He's 4 attempts clear. This will surely be enough to beat Boba. He has done it with a well-timed VSC. Laurie Talkie wins in Albert Park. Imtiaz is going to get P3, or is he? Molnar closing up to the race of the line. Imtiaz gets third as they reach the start-finish line. Lewis Walker 4th, Laminen 5th. But for Laurie Talkie, it is sheer delight in the opening round of the season, winning here in PSGL PCF3, and what a masterclass of a strategy that was 22 lap old hard tyres in the end. The VSC couldn't have come out at a better time, and Torquay holds on to win here in Albert Park.
Yeah, we've called out the great call by the drivers in P1 and 2, so Larry Toki and Boba, but I have to say, that is some solid defense and attack by Raiz Imtiaz. We thought he was going to drop down the order with the medium runners being so much quicker, but round the outside in Sector 2, heading into turn 9 and 10, he managed to get an overtake done. Two-man, then go to the left, and stay in front to claim that final spot on the podium. Huge shout out to Rees. That was a massive, massive move from him and a well-deserved spot here on the podium tonight. But a great, great, great race that we saw all the way through. A lot of fighting, a lot of silly, crazy overtakes by Andre Molnar as well that managed to work out. But in the end, it is the two Finns on the two top steps. Larry Toki gets your race win ahead of Boba, Ramiz Imtiaz, Lewis Walker, then followed by Thomas Laminin, Diego Zorzo, Tom 97, who's managed to snuck in P7 after starting in 17th. Then it's Gabriel Contino, Andre Molnar, Linus Donovan for your top 10. And outside of that, we find Marcel Biga, Leonardo Tonelato, Giovanni Kennis, Tristan Debecour, Riley McKay, Sasha Neeb, Kuba Trzeziak, Sammy Simeone, Zach Miles, and Justin Art. So 4 drivers in total not finishing. But wow, what a way to open this season, to kick things off here in F3. But that's virtual safety car. That was the key to this race. And there's 2 men that got it right, and they're on the top 2 steps. Well done.
Yeah, really good. Well done there from Tatulki and Boba. It's only fitting that we have a finish at top 2 on Kimi Räikkönen's birthday. So, yeah, well done to Tuki and Boba. But, yeah, that was an insane race there. And, yeah, they timed that absolutely perfectly. They went for the gamble. They saw the VSC come out. Yes, it was a tiny bit earlier than their pit window and what they intended, but they went for it, and the gamble, the risk was worth the reward, and they are the top 2 drivers on the podium. And as I say, I'm surprised either Imtiaz, Quintino, or Zorzo didn't also go in with them, because it seemed like at the time, before all this even happened, it was a race-winning strategy, and that it was for Larry Torquay, as he is your first race winner of the season. Of course, with that, he is your championship leader. But wow, Myth, what a race that was. What a final lap as well. Not only between that top 2, but for that battle for 3rd place. Raiz Imtiaz, we know why his pace dropped off. He had that front wing damage, and he was still able to manage that race into that top 3.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. And then another driver that we have to give a bit of a shout out, as the chat well-deservedly mentioned, Diego Zorzo, still managing to get P6. Remember, he disconnected, came back. When he came back, lost position to almost half of the grid in one straight, and then still able, with the old hards, able to gain positions on the mediums with fresher tires. That is very commendable. So great, great work for Diego, and that just shows that a man who last season made his entry into F4, almost winning his race on debut, really deserves to be here in F3. So great, great effort for him, and with a little bit less unfortunate happenings with the internet, definitely a podium would have been on the cards for him. But in the meantime, we have Raiz Imtiaz waiting for us in the waiting room, so I think it's only fitting we move on to the interviews and talk to the man that finished in P3. So here we go then with the first interview for tonight. We'll wait a little bit before Raiz Imtiaz has fully joined us, and he has unmuted now as well. So first up, joining us in the commentary box, the Ferrari man finishing in P3, but after that final lap, wow, very impressive that you still ended up in P3 there.
Well, I just want to say thank you guys for having me, and I want to ask you guys a quick question. Was that entertaining for you guys?
That was
Yes.
definitely entertaining in the final few laps, especially the last one. Take us through that one, because when all the pack was able to get bunched up there, it seemed like you were in a real struggle with those older tires, the hard compound as well. Seemingly you had some wing damage as well, but still going with the overtake, 2 men round the outside to secure P3. What a way to do it.
Yeah, I mean, if I take you through it, I won't stop talking about it. But yeah, so essentially, got a bit of damage, but yeah, I didn't give up. It was just about having the right amount of ERS, and I had about a full tank, maybe 90%, and I drained it all on that final straight or that back straight. Uh, yeah, I feel bad for whoever was at the front of that pack because he just got swallowed up. But yeah, with the damage, unfortunately, Gabriel's internet got me some damage, but it happens. Sometimes the servers are a little bit bad, but I didn't give up. Just put the put the pedal to the metal, like George Morgan says, and I made the double overtake work out for me, and yeah, I took the podium. I just want to say big congrats to my two teammates as well, Larry and Boba. Both of them absolutely like incredible race. Zorzo as well. I thought we were going to catch them, and I thought I'd be talking to you guys about the win. I was already dreaming about it while I was racing. I was thinking I'm going to take P1 today, but it wasn't meant to be. And I tried to let Gabby in front of me because he had the fresher tires, and it just seemed like he didn't have the pace to catch them either. So maybe it was because of the drop off, and the mediums were catching us. So it was scary, but I made it work. And yeah, I'm just glad that you guys enjoyed it, and hopefully the guys watching enjoyed it as well.
Yeah, we saw that the key moment of this race was that a virtual safety car. We saw a couple of drivers coming in, of course, the men ending on the steps above you on the podium, Larry and Boba, they went in early, and then we saw that you took your pit stop, I think a little bit earlier than expected, because I had a feeling that you realized that there was a big undercut potential for the 2 men, and when you came out, the gap was already, well, almost too big to catch up.
Yeah, so it was around about 6 to 7 seconds, the gap between me and Larry, and I was thinking, this is going to be impossible. But me and Zorzo somehow managed to work our way up, and I think we got the gap to a solid 2.8 with a few laps to go. And we were thinking, you know what, we could. Well, I was thinking, we can take these guys, but it was just insane the amount of time that they gained under that VSC. You know, there's nothing I can do about that. But I should have boxed in hindsight. But easier said than done. When it's a VSC, you're thinking, oh, it's Australia. Maybe there will be another safety car. But the guys kept it clean today, and I'm really really proud of them for keeping it clean. There wasn't too many incidents as far as I could see, but again, I was just on my own. So yeah, it was a really really good race, and I'm glad I'm back on the podium on the first race. So yeah, I want to thank you guys as well. Love you guys' commentary. So big fan of your work, and yeah, thank you guys for commentating. I'm sure it will be a really good race to watch back.
Thank you so much. Then moving on to Max, any questions you have for Reese?
Yes, one from me, Rays, of course. After that chaotic race here in Australia, we head to Texas next time out. You feeling confident around there, or just haven't really done much practice around there yet?
Well, I mean, I always back myself, and I'm going to tell you now that I will win the race. But who knows what happens? It could rain. I could get damage in the first lap. Anything can happen. I've had the worst luck in a season, I'd say, in the season that just came. So I'm back. I'm rejuvenated, and I think I'm pushing for the title because I really want this dev seat, and I know that teams are watching, and I know that I can make it. I know I can make my family proud, and get into F1 esports. So for me, I know I can win the Texas Grand Prix, and I know I'll at least be on the podium if everything goes well, inshallah.
Well, congratulations on your third place. I rate the confidence. I actually love seeing the confidence from you, and yeah, hope the rest of your season goes well, and we see you back here next week.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you indeed. Then we've now had our interview with the man on P3. We'll be moving up one step to the man that finished in P2. So we'll be moving in Boba before we'll be having an interview with the man that finished in P1. That's Larry Toki. But first on in the interview box will be Boba. So here we have him then, the man finishing in P2, realizing that he should pit indeed under that virtual safety car, and that seemed to be the golden move at the end of the race. P2 on the season opener, it's for Boba.
Yes. Hello.
Well, quite a race that we've had once more tonight. We've had our season opener here in Albert Park, but before we talk about anything in the race, let's first go back to the qualifying session. How was that for you?
It was decent. There was someone ahead of me in my lap, but it was good. It was a little bit blocking, but it's fine.
Yeah, qualifying session definitely not too bad for you either. You then went for a start on the mediums. We had a virtual safety car quite early on. You went into the pit lane with your teammate. We saw that quite a few other drivers didn't decide to do so, but we saw in the next few laps, next 2 laps actually, that you guys gained a massive amount of time. Was it something that caught you off guard as well?
No, it was because the virtual, you gain a lot of time when you box there, and we boxed there because of that, and it worked. Yes.
Yeah, because we saw that Reyes went into the pit lane 2 laps after. He came out about 6.5 seconds down. We saw him losing a little bit of time because of the DRS zones. He did seem to close in a little bit more towards the end of the race, bringing that gap down to just under 3 seconds. Were you at any point worried that he was going to catch up with you guys?
They won't have catched us up, but Diego disconnected, so they didn't. So lucky.
And then we saw at the start of the final lap that you went for the overtake onto Larry. Of course, it became a 2-horse fight at the end of the race there. Looking back at things, would you have done your strategy for the last lap a little bit differently to try and get the race win? Or was Larry just a little bit quicker today?
Yeah, Larry was quicker today.
All right, very fair remark. Well, then before I take it over to Max, I want to congratulate you on your podium. Great way to start the season here at PSGL PC F3. And moving on to Max with some more questions for you.
Yes, one from me. Congratulations, of course, on your second place first
Thank
of
you.
all. And yeah, what really was the thoughts behind starting that final race in the lead? Was it just you saw that Larry was quicker and you was like, well, if I go into the lead, I'll hold him up as much as possible and see what the outcome of that would be?
It was planned that Larry goes fast a little bit. He was faster, so yeah, he deserved to win. He has been P2 many times, so he needs to win. And, yeah, he got it.
Yeah, well, congratulations on your P2, and hopefully you're back here next week, but maybe on the top step next time.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah.
All right, thank you very much for joining us, Boba. Then we have one more man waiting in the waiting room. It is your race winner from this time out. Let's give him a warm welcome and move on to the final interview for tonight. So for the final interview then tonight, we have our race winner with a golden strategy working out perfectly for him. It's a race win in PCF3 for Larry Tulke.
Thank you.
Quite the race that we have seen here tonight. And like I just mentioned to Boba and Raiz as well as we had the interviews, that virtual safety car was the key to the race.
Yeah, it was because we were on mediums, so yeah.
And yeah, you went in for quite an early pit stop. You had quite the run still to go for on the hards. Already heard that your teammate mentioned that you were expecting behind you guys the Sorzo Raiz to catch up with you. Of course, after that little disconnect, that did not happen. Made it a fight between you and Boba. How did you go into the final lap to try and get that race win?
I was trying to get the win and trying to stay on track on those tires because they were so done in the end.
Well, you managed to do so quite nicely. You kept it on track altogether. You were the first one to cross the line with quite a margin to the man in P3. And that now puts you at the top of the championship after race 1. Was this something you were expecting heading into the race tonight?
I was not expecting at all, and then I did so bad qualifying lap, and yeah, I wasn't expecting to win this race. So yeah, it was so surprise.
And now that you have this race win in the bag, what are your, at least your aspirations for the rest of the season?
Just focusing on the races and try to get best result out of every race.
All right, thank you very much. Then moving on to Max with a few more questions.
Yes, and again, one from me. Larry, first of all, congratulations on your race victory this evening. And so after tonight, we head over to Texas, the COTA circuit. How are you feeling around there? Do you reckon you can repeat the feat that you did today, or is it just score as many points as possible?
Yeah, I don't know about anything about Kota because I have not driven yet there, but I'm trying to do everything much as I can. So that's my target.
Yeah, well, congratulations. And hopefully we see you on the top step again next week.
Yeah, we'll see.
All right, thank you very much for joining us, Larry. That will also round off tonight. So we've had our qualifying session, we had our action-packed race, and we've had our interview with the top 3. So I think the only thing that leaves us for tonight, Max, is for us to sign out in a moment. Of course, we were making the stand-in for tonight for F3. Next week, the pair of us will be back in F4. We're here at the F3 stream. You'll once again see Sappy and Omi. But Max, I must say, it was quite nice to see a couple of the familiar faces from last season here make their debut in F3. Do quite well for some too. And next week we'll have to see how next year's F3 talents, so to speak, are going to do it.
Yeah, we certainly will. Of course, it was actually very nice to see some of the drivers from last season, like Justin, Simeone, and Zorzo. But it was nice to see the drivers that are already in F3, and just an amazing race overall. And it was honestly very chaotic, that final lap. And F3, they're going to be in for an amazing time next for the rest of the season. Sorry, so you guys get to enjoy all that, but F4 will surely be the same. It will surely be as chaotic. So maybe even after people watch F3, hopping over to F4 because the races are just as good. And last season, every race pretty much went all the way down to that final lap.
Yes, it definitely did, just as it did tonight here in F3. And with that, we'll be signing out for tonight. Next week, the race will be on COTA as mentioned with 2 different commentators. We will be back then to F4. And next week on COTA, you will see the season continue. 12 races in total. Before mentioned, the season ending at the end of January. And at that time, we will have crowned the champions for season 38. But for now, this was week 1. We'll see you once again next week. Have a good one tonight. See you soon.